Welcome back to Almost Above Average. I'm Chris McIntyre, and I had the opportunity to sit down with Chris Bloomfeild, and we talked about his extravagant lifestyle, living out on the road with his entire family for the last 11 years, or was it 14? Some crazy amount, but he's got children, and I was just fascinated about how the dynamics of a family work on the road. So I was really fortunate that he agreed to do the podcast, and hopefully I can keep checking in with him, see where he's at. They're in a different place all the time, so it's just a fascinating lifestyle, and I'm grateful that I can share it with you. So here we go with Christopher Bloomfield.
Point for my first fucking 40 years. What you been up to?
Oh, traveling around, just exploring America.
Oh, are you? You're not in
Yeah.
Canada anymore?
No. So about 9 years ago, I hit the road with my family to visit every state in America and was supposed to be going around for like a year and then coming up on our 9-year anniversary of exploring America.
That is awesome. So whose name is Journey?
That is my daughter.
Your daughter. So your daughter is getting her book published.
She's got a short story that's been accepted and is getting published.
Oh, okay.
So it's the first step in the whole getting published process, but she's getting paid for it, which is pretty phenomenal for a 15-year-old, and
Dude.
it's a dang good start.
Right.
So
That's really cool.
yeah, so I think it was about 4 years ago, I started writing in The Trash Eaters. It was about these creatures that eat trash and they kind of get out of hand and civilization. And so I wrote this book, and it was a struggle. It was my first book, and it took me, gosh, I want to say like 2 years to write it. Finished it, and like just finishing it was like a big achievement, I thought, anyways. And apparently she took it to heart, and it made her realize that she could write and finish books. So she started just writing books and learning how to do storycraft. And so she's got a book that she's working on getting published, but she's in the editorial process right now.
Okay.
And so she just started entering short story contests. And so she entered like two, and she won the first one, and the second one she's in like the final running.
Man.
So I'm like, wow, apparently I created East.
Yeah, you guys super proud, huh?
Yeah. So
Dude, man, I'd kill for that. I have maybe, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 chapters written of a book. Like I was trying to figure out, I was trying to write a story about a serial killer, but I don't know. I keep getting like wrist block, and I haven't even picked it up in like 6 months.
it's very hard. Like my first one, like I said, it's because it was just it was pulling it out of the air. Like I just had to come up with it, and I learned a lot about writing doing it. I actually plotted out. It's a 5-book series, so I have it plotted out all the way to the book. I have and I have the second about halfway written.
Okay.
And I found that plotting out the chapters actually helped my writing process to be able to write easier.
Mhm.
But like that first one, full plot arc, it's just got like a whole bunch of characters, and so I found out later that's like the hardest plot to try and write.
How do you even structure, like when you're writing? I think my problem is I'm just going like writing and trying to tell a story and then revisiting it tomorrow when I'm motivated and then picking up that story and keeping going. But I think it doesn't blend like it should.
So
that's, you have to show the way you're talking.
Right. So the one book, that's how I did it. I'm just pulling this stuff out of the air and I'm just slapping it down, and then it leads to a lot more editing to figure out plot holes. And like when I started writing the second one, I was like, it's easy. Mapped it out. And I thought originally a 6-book series, and then I mapped it out and was like, no, it's actually only 5. So I wrote whatever chapter that helps me to be able to like have some, when I sit down, like, what am I writing about today? And I have like a little prompt or like okay, this is what this chapter is supposed to be, and then I can keep on point and keep the story going.
Yeah.
But I think it depends. I took a break from writing that book, and I actually wrote a different book, Tales of a One Fool, which is about our travels, and it's people that we've met, different stories from. And a lot of people wanted me to write that book, telling me, write a book about your travels. And I wrote the book, and it was a science fiction book. And then it was like, that wasn't the book people wanted.
Yeah, I was gonna say your book about your travels was science fiction.
No. The science fiction one was, I just read, people were like, we told you to write a book, but we wanted the book about you and your travels. We didn't want the science fiction.
These cool stories. Why don't you put it down on paper so we enjoy it?
And I resisted it for a long time because I felt like there would be a finality to it if I wrote our story. Like once I finished it, then our travels are done. Like because it was like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to like end our travels. I want to keep traveling. And so I resisted for a long time. And then earlier this year, I actually decided, you know what, I'm going to write about our travels and start putting it together. And so I wrote a 90,000 word book,
Oh,
which is about the size of a
90,000
normal
pages. I was
novel.
like, that's so many. That's like
No,
this many.
no, that's how long the whole story would be. So when I first started, I started a while back and I wrote in a linear fashion from the start of our travels going on. And I only got maybe 3 months into our travels, and I was like, this book is going to be a tome. It's going to be, a 10,000 page enormous beast when it's done. I can't do that. And
Right.
so I made a decision to write about our story. Instead of writing about us, I'm going to write about the people that we've met, because getting to travel around, we just meet all these people, and a lot of times they're amazing and they have these interesting stories, or
Yeah.
weird stuff happens. And well, let me write short stories about different people that we've met on our travels. And
Yeah.
so in a period, I wrote a 90,000 word book, a full size book in 3 months. It just flowed out of me. It was like, it
Nice.
was so much easier writing about stuff that I had experienced, because it's like, I could just
Right.
remember,
You've
I can
already had
think
the
back.
feelings. You've already experienced it. It's pure and it's genuine.
Right. So the only thing that was a little tricky is that even though the book is short stories, I was like, well, I still have to kind of bind the whole thing together, and there has to still be an end. It still has to flow properly. That was kind of easier for this one, I think, because it was just the story of travel. So it was like, well, the first story's got to be, how do we start going? Like, why? What prompted us to leave? Like, how did that begin? So that
Yeah.
was pretty easy. And then the end story was the goal of visiting every state. Well, did we complete it or not? So it had to be the 50th state. So it had to be about Hawaii, which was the last state we visited.
Really. Do it
So
again. Maybe do the tour again. If you ever read about it, go tour Canada. Visit all the
I,
provinces.
I already have enough stories written, like chapter heads written down for a whole nother book. I have another 24 art because I couldn't fit it all in one book. I mean,
Yeah.
we've experienced a lot on this adventure. It's epic.
I'm sure.
So, and then I was actually working on a different book when I messaged with you earlier. That's more like the manual on how to do what we've done. Other people be able to look over to this lifestyle. So it's
Yeah.
more of a technical
I
book.
wanted to ask, like, your daughter's 15. Like, how does that work for school and going on with that?
So the homeschooling part was actually the easiest part of the whole equation for us switching over to this lifestyle.
Mhm.
I mean, we homeschooled our kids when we were stationary in Nevada. So
Okay.
that was, once we hit the road, the only thing that changed is this type of schooling, and how we did the schooling morphed over the years. Like we used to do when we had to have a standard curriculum. I mean, we just came up with the curriculum ourselves, but my wife was going for a PhD in early child psychology. She
Yeah.
was a pre-teacher and a director of a preschool.
She's plenty qualified to teach our children, right?
Yeah, yeah, and she needs that because I could. So she needs somebody,
Amen, brother.
I
I'm
need.
in the same boat, man.
So I needed somebody who could understand how kids think.
Right.
So Uh, but once road, we doing that traditional schooling just was harder because we're always different places, and it's hard to have a set schedule, and there's
Mhm.
kind of a randomness to life that you have to just learn off. And so you can't just, no, we're gonna from this time to this time do schoolwork every day. We found that we didn't have to prompt our kids to work at doing stuff anyways, because they all have a love of learning that I don't know if it's inherited from us or learned from us, or but they all want to learn anyways. So
Yeah.
now we just go to Muni, explore places, and they learn about whatever it is that's in the area. Whether, like when we were in Hawaii, it's a good example. We went to a cacao farm and we learned about the whole thing about making chocolate and how it starts and how it ends. And we volunteered at the farm and like literally spent a day helping this lady break cacao seeds open and do that. They know more about how that works than most people because they learn
It's great
firsthand.
that they're interested
So
in that stuff, like getting kids to be interested and passionate about anything is crazy. The fact that she does that is great. My kids, I love
yeah,
both
yeah.
of
Well,
my kids now they're starting to par a lot because I have the studio all set up in here now. So they're in here more than I am
I
probably.
was I
But
was
I love
admiring
seeing
it. I was
ukulele up
admiring it
there.
at the up there. I'm like, I dig that.
Yeah, man.
I
Well,
can play a little guitar, but I'm not very good.
I'm not
I can
very
play
good
some
either,
songs,
but I give it a go.
and that's the important thing. So my daughter, I mean, we keep talking about her. You'll find that I talk about family a lot just because it's central to everything. That's what I
I
spend all
love
my
it, man.
time.
That's kind of, that's the whole podcast is about sharing positivity, like that kind of stuff, family stuff, learning together, traveling. Wonderful. That's exactly what I'm
So
trying to
I
do.
played the guitar and I taught myself. I had a little bit of help from my brother-in-law and a little bit of help from my friend Brendan, and like they taught me in the beginning and got me rolling. And then I went out and mess around with it and play, And but I can't read sheet music. I can only do tablature, and I can play
I
some
can't
songs, but
even
I'm
do
not
that. I
I'm
can't
not
even
killer
read.
good though.
Well, I probably would. I just haven't tried. I mean,
It's
I'm
really
the same.
easy.
Where I think they sound good and then I memorize it.
So a couple ago, my daughter wanted to play the violin, and
Mhm.
my wife and I were like, this instrument to play. There's no fretboards. You have the bow thing that you have to go set. Right? And are you still there?
You kind of froze. I can hear. I can hear this break still.
I can hear you. Yeah.
You're really
Far in the middle. I'm in
Yeah,
the
I
middle
was
and where
I do you.
No. We often don't have Wi-Fi.
I got you. I got
Is it
your back.
working now though?
Yep. Dude, they're not on iPhones all day.
We have one device that we share for all 5 of us.
What?
This phone that I'm on, that's it.
One
One.
device?
One device.
That's ludicrous. That is ludicrous in this world right now. That is ridiculous. I have 3 in my car.
So the kids, we didn't even have them. They didn't even have tablets for a long time because we just didn't want them to be device people. We wanted them to have a childhood like we had. Play with the stone, go outside and get dirty.
All day.
But eventually, we had to get them the tablets because of the books. I just couldn't carry all the books. They want to read too much.
Yeah. No,
So
that's a good problem to have. That's a good
yeah,
problem. It's easily solved with a tab or a Kindle, right?
yeah.
I'm not carrying any book ever again.
So now they do have books they have their tablets and they do get on the Wi-Fi occasionally when we're places and there's Wi-Fi but we limit screen time. They still only get so much. So they have a lot of times to do different stuff. So when Journey wanted to play the violin and this lady got her this violin, there was no way I was getting out of it. I was like, you're going to be playing on this violin, but I had to like learn how to tune the thing and like learn and get her.
Right.
But then she has all the time. And now she can, it's her song, just play it, which like just by
I'm working on playing for like 20 years and yeah.
yeah, I can't do that. So,
Yeah.
but she's reading music. Yeah, and like because she saw me writing this book. So she just started like going online and like learning and like reading all this stuff and like educating her the tools and the ability to learn on their own, what they can do.
Right? If you're bossing them, they don't learn anything. Me personally, I learned all my lessons the very hard way. I don't want them to learn that way, but if I can help in that process, I'm absolutely going to do that for my kids.
Right. But there's a trick to it because you don't want to force it. You don't want to make them do certain things. You got to, like you said, you empower them to do it themselves. And then you just can get out of the way. Our youngest son, Trip, he's 12 and he's super into computers, really into them. So now he's programming. So he knows a couple programming languages and he can do basic programming stuff. But now he's got this new, I think it's called like Unreal or something like that. But he's got this huge program that is for programming video games like Arc or like Advanced Medal of Honor or some of these games that are modern games. That's what they use. And I'm looking over their shoulder going, this stuff is so advanced and I don't even know what's going on. And he's 12 and he's just like, oh, you click here and you do that. And you,
he's setting goals. He's following through. Why not? That's awesome. It's good to have. That's kind of similar to how my kids, and I learned that lesson the hard way also, which was I forced baseball and football on my kids when they were really young. And I really tried to get them into music. That's what I do. Like, why don't you like it? And they didn't take it back then. And so I just let it go. And now they're both super into it. They're both teaching themselves. My son's showing me stuff that I haven't learned. Like, I've always wanted to learn. I'm like, what the hell's going on? You've been playing for 6 months.
Right?
Shit.
Well, because when Journey was first started to play violin, I go, I'll learn a song with you. I said, how about Ode to Joy? I love that song. I'll get the tablature. We'll both play it. It didn't take her but 3 weeks, and she could just play it from memory without the tablature or any sort of thing. And I'm like, over here years later, I still have to have the dang thing sitting in front of me to play it.
Right.
This isn't fair. Why is it so easy for you?
Sometimes I gotta write my own song lyrics down and put them in front of me.
But the kids are like sponges, so they
Right.
absorb the stuff, and
And
it's
they
like,
retain it.
yeah,
They're keeping it in. I think as we get older, at least what in my own life, I'm forgetting a lot of things all the time.
yeah, it does suck, but it's like, well, at least I have them around, and I just rely on them. All the times I think we meet new people, and they're kind of surprised because they'll ask me some question, and I'll just turn to one of the kids and be like, "Hey, what's the answer? You give me the answer, because I got 3 encyclopedias with me, and they know all this stuff. What good's that
Right.
knowledge if they can't help their old man out?"
So it sounds like all of your family is just curious and
Oh
want
yes,
to explore. I love that. You know
yeah,
why? It's because me and my dad were like that. My wife is not. My children are, and I've experienced a lot just because I've been curious and I've been able to do things that I never thought I would do. A company sent me to Sri Lanka in 2006 and again in 2015.
wow,
And it's not a big deal. It was just for a work thing. You know, it was really cool to me. Like travel
that's
the
epic, dude.
world
That's cool.
technically. You know, like that kind of stuff.
So I got to go to a foreign country? That's awesome. That's not,
It's a big deal, right?
yeah.
For someone like me.
Well, yeah, like born and raised in Carson City, Nevada. I
Mhm.
don't know if it's just because you're in the basin or what, but you like most of the people that are there never leave. Like you go anywhere, maybe
Right.
California, and that's it.
Yeah.
And,
It.
and like when I was a kid, I never would have thought that I would go to New York. Just going to New York City, like that's an impossibility, just insanity. I could never do
I
that. And now
felt
I'm
the
like,
same sentiment
why?
I felt.
It's like it's you could get a plane ticket. It's like my mom wanted to go to Niagara Falls, and I was like, why didn't you ever go? You guys had the money to do it. You could have gone to Niagara Falls at any time. It's not that far away. It's not like you have to get passports, but
Right.
there's just something about the Carson area that there's like a mindset that just that you're just there and you can't ever leave. And it's
I think you're because outside of there, like my experience, and I'm just surprised on how happy everyone, how genuinely friendly everyone is. Even though there's very strong racism all around, you don't really see it. You hear about it, but you don't see it. Everyone is just being super respectful and kind. Like the Southern hospitality thing, very real. You know what I mean?
well, and there's definitely a difference between West Coast and East Coast in that regard. So
Yep.
my brother just moved from Oregon over to North Carolina. He was in Oregon for like 9 or 10 years, never to his neighbors, didn't know who his mail carrier was. Just he moved over to North Carolina, and he was like, within like 3 months, he's like, we have number of our mail carrier and chat with her regularly. He's like, we
She's
just
friends
like
on
have
Facebook.
yeah, he's like, we have like friends, and he's like, just weird because the people are so much more open to meeting people and talking with them. Whereas in the West, it's kind of like more of like a closed, like you have
Authentic.
friends, but it's closed. It's like, no, I don't know you. I'm gonna talk with you.
Right.
So,
There is a general attitude I've always felt since I left that where we grew up, everyone just kind of had a like, I'm not overly nice, you know, unless I absolutely have to. Kind of here, let me do my, you know, you kind of bother me. Kind of general feeling that I just in people from where we're from, you
well,
know?
and there's some power to it though sometimes though because there is like a space thing with the West where it's like everybody gets their own space, so nobody like gets up
Right.
in your business. Whereas you go East Coast, sometimes people get a bit close and you're like, whoa, can you back up? Like I need a little room here. Like, I just met you. I don't
Mhm.
want to be this close. Like so it's just a
Yeah.
difference in people noticeable, especially when you start traveling around. Like people are
So you've been
different
to all
everywhere.
50. Where are the nicest people?
Maybe Kentucky. Like
Kentucky.
it's
Okay.
like a they like their motto, their state, and it's legit.
That
Like
was
when
your
you go,
experience.
yeah, like went to the government. So our thing was we took our kids to the state capitals because of the education side of it, because you learn about the
Yeah.
state and you learn about the government and you learn there's always history and art wrapped up in it. And we went to the state capitol, and then the governor's mansion was right next door. So my wife's like, well, let's just go over there. It's like right next door. We could check it out.
Hmm.
I'm down, whatever. I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's go. So we missed the last tour by like 15, 20 minutes. And
Oh,
and we were like, oh man. She's like, well, you can still look around this room. We were like, okay, we can look around. That's fine. And we were fine with it. We're just gonna not let it ruin our day. And then
right.
she was like, you know what? Let's just take you on a private tour. And we were like, really? And she's like,
Ooh,
oh yeah,
yeah.
I'm just hanging out. Let's just so literally she'd spent like an hour and a half to like taking us to like areas a normal tour doesn't go. And like
That's
we
super
were like,
cool.
this is crazy. Like she was so friendly about it and was like, well, we don't want your day to be ruined. And we were like,
Oh
this is not
man.
gonna ruin our day, but okay.
That's what it is. There's an attitude that I'm noticing over here. It's a kind of a you above self kind of thing. Like, I'm gonna help you first before I worry about myself. Not that that's right or wrong, but that's the feeling I get sometimes around
Well,
with
and that
people here.
the Carolinas have this like they're the sweet spot as far as you get the southern hospitality and still not up. Like my wife noticed that the colder a place is in the winter, the more closed the people are.
Oh
So
yeah,
like when you go up
damn.
to Wisconsin, so cold in the winter there, you can make friends, but it takes a minute for people to warm up to you.
Yeah,
And like the Carolinas, you're far south, you're out of that freezing cold northeast corridor. So
right.
people are pretty warm pretty quick, and you're still in where it's like southern hospitality. So the
Yeah,
Carolinas are a friendly state. Both of them
yeah.
are friendly.
It's beautiful. We couldn't be happier out here. I didn't know what to expect. Moved here, but my entire experience it has been good. Like, it's a
What?
great place to raise your kids. There's versus where we grew up. Like, the kids have so much many more they can do. There's just things to do everywhere, productive. And what I felt like where we went to high school is I hung out with the wrong crowd, but that's kind of there wasn't much to do. You know what I mean? I didn't know
That's
what
true.
else
There's
to
not as
do.
many museums. There's not as many zoos. There's not as much
And then you go
cultural
to
stuff. Even
you're only gonna go to the museum so many times, you know?
right. And it's weird because there's so much like history. You would think that they like try and like do more with it, or whatever. It seems like it's kind of like history isn't really like I mean VC has history and there's like thing with VC, but there's definitely could be more about like Western history, and they just
Yeah.
kind of it's all light.
They could capitalize on that shit. They
They
could
could.
build parks out in Washoe or in between Johnson Lane and Gardnerville, and like they could rake in some money on some shit if they wanted to.
Well, yeah, and like bring in tourists for it and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
I'm
It's all
it's just
interesting. Those stories are
and you go other places like you go to Tombstone and that's what you find. It's like
right.
their whole tourism economy is like geared to events that happen there
Yeah.
historically. We've gone. I mean, I'm in Louisiana right now, and we've a place in Louisiana that's a historic. It's called a living museum.
Mhm.
We find these all over the place where it's like you go and it's like you're back on the bayou 100 and some odd years ago, and it's like the characters are dressed like they were. You learn about the way the life was, and it's like you go over to Plymouth and or in Virginia, you'll find like the Jamestown settlement. You'll find that it's
Right.
like, well, don't they do that out west? All like, you could have a western town. You in some states out west, not in Nevada. For some
There's
reason,
so much
Nevada just
space in Nevada to do some cool stuff if they wanted to. So
well,
much
yeah,
open space.
like my favorite thing when we were up the Kit Carson Rendezvous, like at the park.
What is
Like
that?
you never went to the Kit Carson Rendezvous?
Oh, the Kit Carson Rendezvous. Yes,
At,
I was
yeah,
thinking of a
at Mills
different
Park.
word. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they like you throw axes off, and it was cool. And I always thought, why is the year that you're doing this? You should have like some sort of site where this is going on and could learn about this stuff whenever they're in town. Like,
Right. Right. Sell your city
so,
a little bit.
yeah. So it's whatever. I mean, every place has ups and downs. So
Yeah.
people will ask us like, well, what's your favorite state? What's the best place? Like that's an impossible question to answer.
Wait,
Everybody's
hey, I
different.
got a
Every
tough
place
one for
has
you
good and
though.
bad.
Where are the worst people?
The worst people or the worst place?
Where did you have the worst vibe? Like, I don't like that my family's around these guys, these from this state.
Washington, D.C.
No shit. Okay.
Like at camp,
Yeah.
we would be sitting there at gunfire every night.
I don't like
Not
that.
not like shooting at the range gunfire, like gunfights. Like 15, 20 minutes later, sirens, like, I think the police are gonna catch anybody 20 later. Like it was bad. So DC has got all these and I mean, touring the Capitol, there's this painting up in the Capitol that's like one of the best in that I've ever seen. It's so realistic looking and three dimensional, even though it's flat. And it's so there's a lot of like stuff to see stuff, but when you go there and you stay in the surrounding areas, they're rugged. It's bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad. And so it's just we didn't have mess with them, but apparently gangsters and thugs don't like to hike in the forest because we were just right there in the forest and we never
Well,
saw anybody.
they'll fuck their shoes up, they don't
Yeah.
like getting their shoes dirty. Just
So,
saying.
but I mean, a couple other places that were and we had stuff happen. I mean, we've been on 9 years. My wife's we've had different bad stuff happen, and we my daughter got bit by a rattlesnake. Like we've had shit happen and go wrong. So it's not, it's a perfect life or anything, but that DC, both the places that were near DC, both times it was rugged. It was like, this area is just bad.
You guys are packing, right?
I'm not at liberty to say questions like that, but yeah.
All right. Hey, I'll edit that out.
That's a gray line that a lot of people, oh, what about this and what about that? But I've never had to pull a weapon on anybody. Got attacked. My wife got attacked in a museum. So, I mean, that's not where you would think that you would be assaulted, So, yeah, she was injured, but I mean, she wrists of her wrist, like,
serious. What
and
happened?
they damaged a camera lens that was like an $800 camera lens.
Jeez.
So,
what happened?
So there was, my wife is a strong person and she doesn't take shit from people. And so there was these kids and we were waiting in line to go up this thing and these kids shoved us out of the way and tried to plow past us. And my wife just stopped them with her arm and said, no, I don't think so. You can't just shove past us. It's our turn. We've been waiting. You can obviously see that we're in line. And she let our kids go. And then we went and then we went about our day. And it didn't seem like that big of an incident. It was just some little small thing, right? These kids tried to cut in line. She called them out on it. She stopped them from doing it. And then we went. But apparently their mom was not happy about the whole thing. Man. Went psycho. So she just walked up randomly to my wife half an hour later and then out of the blue attacked her. So it was just unexpected. And we were all tired at that point. So it was like, I was moving a little sluggish because I couldn't get to her in time to prevent any of it. And then by the time I got to the lady, then staff was there and they stopped me from doing anything. And then the museum wasn't happy because we forced them to call the police. They weren't even going to call the police. So
really?
So
where was this at?
What's that?
Where was this at?
St.
Louis.
And this was our, I think, second or third time in St. Louis too. And it used to be one of our favorite cities, but they had gone downhill. A lot of the big cities have gone downhill the last couple of years and are just not doing well. So we finally got the cops there and they took a statement and everything, but they actually refused to file a police report, which is weird. We were like, why would
illegal? I thought they're not allowed to do that.
I don't know, but so when you file a police report, they have to mail you a copy. So we forced them to file the police report. They took a statement. One of the cops actually pulled me aside and had a chat with me. And he just said, this is going to go nowhere. And I'm like, well, what do you mean, sir? My wife was just attacked. There's a $900 camera lens is damaged. And he goes, because of the way the state does prosecution and because of the races involved, nothing will happen. And it was literally racism against my wife because of her race. And I was just like, you guys realize this is not what Martin Luther King Jr. had in mind.
No.
This is, you guys are pulling it in the opposite direction. This is still racism. You can't do stuff based on people's race. We don't care about people's race. We don't see race when we talk to people. I view people as their content of their character and what they do and how they act. I've never based friendship with somebody on their economic status or on their race. I don't care about that. I never have.
That's good. That'd be very weird if you did.
Well, apparently a lot of people do that though. They won't talk to people if they're poor. Or they won't talk to them
you're 2 shades too light. We can't.
But they literally told me if the races were reversed, this would go somewhere. But since the races are the way they're at, we're going to do nothing. And then I called multiple times later. Well, can I get a copy of the report? I need the person's name so I can sue them for the camera, because I could at least get my $800 or $900 for the camera that they damaged.
Right.
They wouldn't. They never sent me a police report.
They're like, that's going to cost us $22 in labor for us to sit at a computer. And
no, it goes beyond that. They literally did not even file the police report. They never sent me one. And they started to get hostile towards me and angry at me because I kept calling them. They were like, no, you need to just drop it and move on with your life. And I was like, so I couldn't figure out for the longest time why. And then I saw that all the crime stats were down, and I was like, oh, this is what it is, the crime stats. If you don't report the crime and you don't do the police reports, then the crime doesn't happen in their view. And so then their stats look better.
Yep.
Which is sad, which is like, that's a horrible thing. And it has a consequence.
That's governmental corruption right there at the federal level or state level, right?
Yeah, and this has a consequence because we've been on the road long enough now. Like you said, oh, you got to go back around again, and I laugh because I'm like, we've already revisited more than half the states a second time. We're up to
A year or just total? So how does that work? What I'm thinking in my head, you go city to city each night and just pick a different place.
we're at 22 states for the year this
Okay.
year. But we have other years where we had less, we travel slow, but sometimes we go a little faster, sometimes we go a little slower, just we go with what the universe is telling us. So I often like to drive an hour between camps, which is not very far, but we go slow. But we'll only stay 3 or 4 nights, and then we'll go another hour, and then 3 or 4 nights, and then another hour.
That's what I was gonna ask. 3 or 4
But
nights.
we don't do anything consistent. I'm in a camp right now, and we rented the place for a month because I wanted a home base for Christmas and the holidays and to get some work done on my novel or my book. And so I was like, I need to just post up somewhere.
Are you in a camper?
We have a
Travel trailer.
and somehow we're in the same trailer 9 years later. It's the same one. I have to replace stuff all the time. I've replaced the floor and it already needs replaced again. They're not meant to be lived in. So, and we take ours off-roading into all these crazy remote spots, and we don't treat ours gently. We just live in it. We use it and abuse it and just don't even care. Well, whatever, it's meant to be used. So,
Right. And it's got a fridge. It's got
one
shower.
bathroom for all of us, which can be tricky. But
Yeah.
that's actually kind of the harder thing sometimes, having 5 of us. You just got to wait because somebody's using it or whatever. But
How's the relationship inside of that tight of a space with 5 people you said in the family?
5 of us. It's very tight. It's tighter than most people. I know my kids better than most people.
Yeah.
When there's a fight brewing in the back of the trailer, I can hear it. And then I sit there and I listen and I start like, do I need to jump in? Do I not? We try and let them resolve their problems and stuff like that. So I don't just immediately jump in. I'm like, no, you guys figure this out on your own. But we are probably closer than any other family I've met because of it. I know exactly what interests my kids have. I know exactly what they're doing with all their time. There is no hiding.
There is no. So tell me about that. Are you sacrificing something with not having, or the kids don't have privacy or real privacy? What's that?
To some degree. So I'm talking to you right now. I got this glare hitting me, but because I'm in the garage, this is what we've nicknamed the garage. It's our car. So when somebody's having a phone call, if I was inside, everybody would hear every word of this, and you would hear them if they're in the background. And so we've become accustomed to this is another room that we just treated as another room in the house. And it's like, oh, if I'm going to have a phone call, the kids will say, oh, I'm calling my cousin. I'm going to go to the garage. Yeah. They have friends. They have family that they call regularly. They have people that they mail stuff to and get stuff from. And we have people that we meet up with on the road. And then we meet new people everywhere.
All around the world for people to send you mail?
What's that? Say that again?
You just have P.O. boxes all around the states?
No, I have a mail forwarding company in Nevada, and they get my mail, and then they send it to me. And then some people know where my in-laws' address is, so they'll send stuff to them because we visit them pretty regularly. They're in Texas, so they're centrally located to where we pass by, and we'll visit them. And then sometimes for this camp, I actually let people know, hey, if you want to mail us stuff, let me know and I'll tell you where we're at for a month. Because my daughter, Journey, she mails a lot of stuff out. And I thought, well, it might be cool if she got some Christmas cards or postcards or something. It's because she doesn't get as much in return.
Right.
And that's okay. But it does, when you live so close, there's an art to it. You have to still have alone time. You still have to have you time. And so my oldest son, he's 17, Miles, and he'll just go and walk. He'll say, hey, I'm going to go on a walk.
I bet a lot of walking takes place. I would do walking. I'll probably take up running. And
stuff. My wife and I go on walks at least 2 or 3 times a day. That's part of the reason why I've not gained any weight or anything. I've stayed pretty thin, and it's like she walks me a lot. And it's like, and we walk around and we chat, and sometimes we'll take a kid with us, sometimes we won't. Sometimes I'll just grab a kid and say, hey, Trip, come. My youngest, I'll say, hey, come walk with me, and then I'll go on a walk with him. And so where you get used to just pairing up different, and you want to have some time with just one of them. So sometimes I'll take one of the kids and say, you're coming with me into town today, and we're going to go do something with just us. And then that way it's more special, and you get some alone time with just one kid, one-on-one time.
That's important.
And my kids are old enough now, my wife and we can go on dates if we want, because we have a 17-year-old in the house. So it's like, all right, you guys do your thing and we go on our thing.
17-year-old, that's a tough age to be living in that situation.
It is. He's getting ready for college, and so
Okay.
we've been working on his chosen profession. He wants to be a gunsmith, and so he's got a college.
Nice. Go manufacture guns.
I think he wants to just start by like fixing people's guns, but
Okay.
he's always been into weaponry
Oh, yeah, gunsmith.
and so he interviewed a lot of people about becoming a fish and game warden, and he
Mhm.
interviewed a lot of people about going into the military. And this is the advantage he has over other kids. When he was like, I'm thinking about going in the military, he just started asking all these guys, hey, you were in the military. Tell me about your experiences. Tell me what you thought. Would you do it again? And he ended up figuring out it's about half the guys who went into the military did and half didn't. And so he
Hmm.
was like, that's just not good odds, Dad. I don't like that. So I'm not going to do that. I'm like, all right,
Okay.
whatever you want to do, kid. It's your life. I'm
Yeah.
not going to live it. I'm here just to help you.
I still
And
got
so he
mine though.
decided he wanted to be a gunsmith because he likes weapons, and that's a good, honest profession that he can then earn a living and still tinker
Yeah.
around and play with guns. And the guy,
Anything,
the
man, if you're
kid,
passionate about anything that nowadays, I didn't believe that when we were kids. But if you're passionate about anything, if you were passionate about picking up dog poop with a pink tissue paper, you could make a significant living doing that, just filming it. You know what I mean?
it's true though. It's kind of strange. We live in the most powerful of times. You can find out whatever you want off of the computers, and you can
Right.
do whatever profession you want.
And
And
you
like,
and I are right at that age where we learned it for the most part. It was a baby when we were young. So like
yeah,
we were kind of evolving with it. I have a pretty good understanding of social media and computers and stuff. Not like the best, but I understand it.
we got this podcast to work,
Right. It took a couple different platforms, but here we are, man.
right?
That's
And
what it's
so,
all
I
about,
mean,
striving through those things to get to where we're winning. You know?
right. And we've our main lesson for our kids, there's two lessons that we've taught them from the beginning, and that is number one, you can do anything if you really want to, and you put your mind to it and you work towards it and you're realistic in your expectations. Obviously, if you're a shorter guy, it's going to be harder to be a basketball player because they're predominantly tall. But that doesn't mean it can't happen, because there
No,
have been
not at
some
all.
phenomenal basketball players that are shorter. So you can make
Yeah.
it happen. Exactly. And then the other thing is that do what you love. That's really the key. And if you do what you love, money seems to follow afterwards, anyways.
Right.
And it's not the money that's important. We've really taught them that money is just a means to an ends, and it's not the end all be all.
Yeah.
We do what we do on a very low amount of money, and people tell us all the time that they want our lifestyle or they wish they could do what we're doing, and we just laugh because we're like, if they knew how little of a budget we do this on, it would blow their minds, because it doesn't take a huge amount of money to do what we do.
It might not
And
generate that money though. So how do you go
yeah,
about getting that? Unless you became a billionaire and I don't know about it and you're really frugal.
no, we're very, very frugal. But so when we first started, we did a fix and flip. Basically, we bought a house from the bank in
Mhm.
foreclosure. We put a lot of effort into fixing it up, and then we sold it, and we used that as our seed money to buy the trailer outright and pay off all our debts and get to where we were just on cash basis. And that way we would have a good solid foundation to do this. And because we did that, it allowed us to go longer. Originally, though, we were only supposed to travel for 1 year. So
Yeah.
I was always the breadwinner. I always went to work. I was a certified pharmacy technician. Sarah was a stay-at-home mom. As soon as we had kids, my goal was to make it so that she was at home, because we wanted one parent with the kids always. And we just kind of did our normal thing, and it was fine, but it just wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
And so when we hit the road, it was supposed to just be, we were buying 1 year of me being with my kids. So we
Yeah.
said, this is how much we make. I make as a pharmacy technician and bring in. So I said, let's do that for 1 year. We just paid for 1 year's salary for me, and then that
Yeah.
way I wouldn't have to work and we could travel around. And then we figured out this country is huge and there's a lot to see. And the 1 year turned into 2 years, and we still hadn't seen all the states yet. And we were like, so the second year, it was, now we have no income. Things are getting tight, but we figured we'll just tighten our belt and we'll be very frugal, and then we'll just spend the money that I had set aside to reestablish a normal life, to get a house and get established.
Okay.
And so we were a little bit crazy as far as we spent more than we probably should have, and came closer to that threshold of insolvency than we should have. But that was what we did for year 2. So by year 3, it was like somebody's got to make some money if we're gonna keep doing this. This is
We are out.
like, so I started working, but I wouldn't take jobs. I would only take odd jobs or help different people, painting people's houses, or worked in a solar field once, maintaining a solar field for a little bit. And I would get these gigs or these things. Somebody would be like, "Oh, I need this job done on my car," and I'd say, "Okay,
I got you.
get my sleeves rolled up and get dirty," and I'd get it, and I would get the money. But then what happened is I get a really good one. I was painting this lady's house. I'm still friends with her, and I just love this lady. She's just wonderful. And she had this house in Texas, and she let me paint one room. And I charged her a higher rate than anybody else in the area would do. And she was like, "I don't know if you're worth it." And I said, "Let me paint one room and we'll see." And I'm crazy when it comes to painting and just do it meticulous. And I didn't get a
Okay.
drop anywhere. And the whole thing was like perfection. And she was just like, "This is amazing. Can you do the whole rest of my house?" I was like, "So," but she was like, "But your price isn't outrageous, Chris, because you don't take breaks. You always are working when you're charging me, and you work faster and harder than." I was like, "You really, when I did the math, your rate was right in line with everybody else's. I just don't charge you if I'm not working." And some people
Well,
do, and then they hang out and they chat, and I'm like, if I'm chatting, I'm off the.
You don't have overhead. It's all going to you. It's more in your best interest to save your own time to get it done as quickly, as correctly, and as efficiently as possible.
Right. And so she was so happy with that.
People can see that inside of you, that you're the guy that they can trust to get shit done. They're gonna come back to you too. Right.
Yeah, and she had me do a whole bunch of other stuff, and I charged her different rates accordingly. So she had us at one point, we were clearing trees, and I told her, "Oh no, that's not the painting rate. That's a skilled labor's rate." I said, "This is clearing trees rate. We're going to charge you this rate, and that's the family rate." And she was like, "Family rate? What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Well, that means the whole family comes out and does it. Everybody in our family can trim trees." She was like, "Really?" So it was a lower rate, and then we all showed up, and we did the work faster than she anticipated, because she's like, "That's a lot of hands helping out." And I'm like, "My kids know how to get with it. They know how to work." So they were really helping.
What a good lesson for the family, the kids and the parents. Look, we're all actively doing this together for one common goal. I love that.
Right.
What a good lesson.
But the problem became, I would get a gig like that. She sold that house and she moved to Kansas. And so then she had me painting this separate house, this different house. And it was good money, and we liked being there. We liked being with them, but we get itchy feet after a minute now. And so after about a month, 6 weeks of being there, my wife Sarah's looking at me going, "Well, when are we leaving, dude? I'm ready to move now." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"But the job." And so it became hard, because it's like you get attached to that money, and it's like, "Oh, but the money's coming in, and then when we leave, that's going to stop." And so we knew we had to do
the hourglass flips back over, and we're on the clock again.
Right. I started going online, and I was trying to find work doing Photoshop type stuff, because I have a graphic arts background. And so I thought, "Oh, I'll do that." But I kept getting underbid by people in other countries that just have way lower cost of living. And so they could do the same thing I was doing for $1 an hour. And I'm like, "I can't do that. That's not worth my time."
No.
And so I started writing articles for a guy, and he would pay me to write these articles. And then it just went from there. It kind of morphed, and somehow my wife took it over. So she was making the meals, and I was writing these articles. And then somehow she became, it was because I wasn't good at editing, basically. I can write, but I'm not as good at editing. She's like a teacher and can edit stuff. And there was a lot more editing work at the time. So she was like, "Oh, I'll start editing." And then all of a sudden the editing took over, and it was like she was working all the time. So I said, "Well, why don't you just do all the work, and then I'll do the housework, and I'll do the schooling, and I'll do the meal prep and all that stuff." And we switched roles, and I became the stay-at-home dad, and she became the breadwinner. And I was one of the best things we ever did, because it really showed us both the perspective the other person had.
Yeah.
It made me realize all the work that she had done when I went to the pharmacy and worked every day. I just always thought she was hanging out at home. And then I was like, "No, there's all this cleaning that has to be done, and there's all these chores." And
that exact thing took me the longest to learn with my wife. Literally, all she ever wanted from me was to do the dishes when I see that there's dishes there, or simple things that I thought, because I was at the job and I'm making the money, that I shouldn't have to help with that stuff, which is freaking retarded. And that one thing could have saved my marriage the first time. Luckily, we fixed it, and now we're back together. Do you know Amanda McIntyre? She wanted to tell you hello.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I do.
Oh, Amanda Rogers.
I think I do. Oh, I was gonna say, like, you married her, so her name wouldn't be McIntyre back then,
No,
but Amanda.
Amanda Rogers. She said hello.
It's a small world, right?
Where are you at in Texas?
No, right now I'm in.
Louisiana. You're in
Yeah.
Louisiana. We're both from Carson City. I'm in North Carolina. The three
You know,
people that got out of there.
I was just in North Carolina. I was visiting my brother in North Carolina. Like that was we spent Halloween there.
Okay.
And then visited my brother in Florida. That's one of the things I like to do. I just travel around and visit people.
Yeah, that is really. I was gonna say when you're in the Raleigh area next time, just stay connected with me and let's link up, get some lunch or something, or do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, let's take. This was a good conversation. We're almost at an hour, man. That was crazy.
I know.
Normally I do an introduction, but I didn't today. And we just had a really good conversation. I like it.
It's so fun. I sort of introduced myself. I hope you don't mind. The kids were like, "Are you gonna do show prep? Like, do you know what you need to say?" And I was like, "I don't know what he wants me to talk about. I don't really care. Whatever. If he wants me to go in a certain direction, I will. But I'm like, I don't have an agenda. Like, I talked about my book, Tales of a Wandering Fool. I'm like, I don't out yet. They can't buy that anyways. So I mean, like, I can't like. I mean, the only thing to plug would be our website, statebystate.net. Like, that's actually hundreds of articles that we've written over the years and about places and stuff like that. But
.net.
Yeah. But like
even that, together, I'll put that in the show notes so people can follow it or find it.
Nice. And if they want to, cool. But if not, I don't really care because I write that just to help people, and it gets found on its own at this point. And like it's self, like we don't have to drive. Like in the beginning, I had to drive traffic to it and like get people to it. Now it's aged enough and it has enough content that like people just find it. It's kind of weird because like I've had people come up to me and be like, "Oh, I recognize you from your website, and you told me where to go in Minnesota, and it was awesome." And I'm like, "Okay, that's kind of, but glad I could help you."
It's probably on like a referral basis. People that have visited the website and checked out the articles, they're telling their friends. If you know, and people are still discovering it, that's getting like you know.
Oh well, in Google searches, and it gets found on Pinterest a lot, and then I do sometimes give people my card, or I'll. Like if somebody's a new person to this lifestyle and they have like a lot of, I'll answer like a question or two, and then I'll be like, just go to the website. I have like a bunch of stuff written on there, and like it would be for you just to read that stuff and like then come to with the questions that I didn't already answer, kind of a deal. Right. But so they were
like,
"Are you on TikTok?" No, I should be, but I'm not.
Dude, you could on TikTok just filming 30 seconds of every day, like you know. Me and I've been on the road for 3 years. Just put those words on the screen and show a 30-second shot every day. Just do a 30-second shot, put words on the screen. We've been traveling as a family for 10 years or something like that. People would follow the shit out of that.
I might do that. You're like not the first one. We've been told we should have a YouTube channel, which I do have a YouTube channel, but I never post anything to it. I did for a minute, but it's like you got to have discipline for stuff like that. And like you said, I have to post something every day. That's the key. You got to do it like every day.
You know what I've heard? I've kind of changed my strategy on it. Like I've heard that I used to try to do that, but like I was listening to an interview with Mr. Beast Mr. Beast. Like it doesn't matter when you post. What matters is just the quality of the content, you know, and keeping. I've been working really hard lately on just my regular videos, not every single one that I put out on like my personal page. For the business, I'm trying different videos that look, you know, a little. I'm going that direction. So it does take time and it does take a lot of consistency. But you would absolutely crush it on YouTube too. Just pay a little little attention to it, you know. That could be your income, man. If you took that seriously, you could absolutely do that. Better than I could right now.
Well, maybe I will just take your advice because you're telling me, and
I'll help as much as you want. Like I could even her whole journey of making you a creator and get the free content for myself.
I like that. That's a win-win right there. So,
dude, it's crazy how this shit works. I think. I mean, it works. I posted this thing on Threads the other day, probably about 36 hours ago, and it's at 236,000 views.
Wow.
Like 2,000 comments, and it was stupid. I didn't try to go viral on that one. It was just a stupid little statement. It was a question that I didn't know that people spelled the word realize with an S and an E. I didn't know that was
I saw that and I didn't know it either.
Fuck, man. It versus cities.
So then every night, my youngest son isn't into books. Like, he's never been a big reader. My oldest two are like crazy. Like, he read all of Harry Potter when he was like 6 or something, or like he was ridiculously young to be reading a book like that on his own.
Right.
But my youngest has just never been into it. He's like he likes programming stuff like that, but he's not into like reading books. So
Right.
part of our ritual that we have every night is he reads to me. And I've taught him over the years to be a better reader. And so he's reading War of the Worlds to me right now. And so the universe is so funny how it works, because I saw your thing about the realize and the realize, and I didn't realize that there was two different versions. And then he's
Right.
reading it to me, and it's an English book. The realize was spelled with the S, and I was like, it's right here on the page. I was like, I would
Man,
have thought it was an error.
that's crazy. What a bunch of crazy things to align for all that to happen.
Yeah, that's
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 awesome.
how they go, right?
Yeah, that's been my experience lately. That's really cool. Because I'm doing the podcast, like it's made me think over the last year. Like now when I'm talking to people online, I'm like, huh, I wonder interesting. I wonder if they'd like to tell me about that. Like I would love to hear more about it. Like the curiosity thing you and your whole family have, I
Right.
also have, and I'm just genuinely interested in people. Like someone that most people think had nothing interesting about, I would find that interesting, you know?
Well, and that's our everywhere we go, we meet. I mean, we've been in like maybe a week, and the kids have a friend that they have been playing D&D with, Dungeons and Dragons with,
Nice.
and like the lady she invited to the campfire for Christmas Eve, and I'm like, we've already got an invite for Christmas Eve, and we haven't even been here longer than a week. Like,
Yeah.
but we just anybody interesting because it has a story, everybody has a background, and like they have these things that have happened to them that are you can if you're it's like, well, that's fascinating, tell me more. I mean, that's when we're like, oh, are you doing show prep? And I'm like, no, like it's fine, like whatever, we'll talk about whatever, I don't care.
So I used to do that when I first started it. Like my idea of because I listened to a bunch of them. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have this is what I'm gonna say in the beginning. These are the lines I'm gonna say, and I did it a few times, and I had like a couple people that I was trying to co-host with. Did it a few times, and it just looked forced and it looked fake. And then I also found that when I'm doing a stupid intro for the guest, like while the guest is on the screen, I'm putting this unnecessary pressure on someone. All right, you better be good. I'm about to ask you about your whole life story, and you better be good. So I try not to do that anymore. So what I've decided to do is every time I get on, I hit record before I say how it's going to go, and then it just ends up working itself into the podcast. And then in post production, I add an intro, grab the transcript, I put all that stuff together at the end. I put an intro, put an outro, maybe put some advertisements in the middle.
So do you just do the whole thing, or do you edit it down to a certain length, or do you edit certain parts out, or how does that all work?
If the guest says something that they don't want on the podcast, I said that part earlier where I was going to cut that out. So I'll go find that part and cut that out. And I'll take it out. And then another thing I do is I'll take out all the dead space, the pauses that were in there, but we didn't really have any. Sometimes the first few that I did, I would get really, really nervous and forget my words. I still do it from time.
Well, the hard part for me is I have so much to say, and I'm a talker, and so I have to like tell myself, no, just hang out. You got a conversation back and forth. Let them have a chance to speak, and then you can speak. But it's hard because I get excited, and I'm like, oh, I just have so much information that I could just tell you about all this, especially if you're going on traveling.
A person like me because I do like to talk, but it's easier for me when I can just prompt someone and let them rip. then it's just me in the background. And then during the conversation, though, I'm actually listening. So I start wondering about what you're talking about. And then it just flows naturally. It just comes.
Well, and I like how it went on some tangents here and there. We start talking about one thing and then we go on another thing, because I'm like, that's how most conversations around a campfire go. Right. And to me, that's what I like. Like writing this short story book, the hardest part was that I've told these stories to many people and they love them. And that's why I wrote the book. But it's like normally it's like a back and forth between me and somebody else. And like, I can pick which parts to tell them or which stories to tell them based on their responses. And like, writing the book, it was just like, I'm like speaking to myself here. It's weird. So I had to really like force myself. No, just act like you're at a campfire still and you're just chatting with somebody, and like, even in my head, fill in the parts that they might ask if you need to, but make it more like a conversation.
Right. And I did that also I got a studio downtown when I could afford it. I'm at home now. But I tried to take away that weirdness too by just having a place for us to sit down and talk normally. Don't even look at the camera. Don't worry about the microphone. It's recording. Let's just talk to me. You know what I mean? And that format worked out pretty well. But not everyone that I'm trying to talk to lives in Raleigh. And it's
Yeah,
just another expense I can't do right now. So
I know.
I
Well,
got
when you said North Carolina, that's why I was like, man, why couldn't you have talked to me like a couple months ago? I'd have just been like, oh, I'll just come over. It's fine.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that would have been perfect. Next time you're in North Carolina, let's do it. I'm sure my podcast will still be going. Maybe I'll have a studio by then.
huh?
That would be dope. I love
Well,
that.
that'll be good. And see, I'll be a TikToker then, you know. So,
Well,
and my
yeah,
book
we'll have
will have
talking
come
about you
out.
going
So then
viral all
I'll,
the time, and
get into the universe right here. See, by that point,
it's
I'll have
coming.
come out with my book, and I'll be a TikToker. So I'll come by so that I can do a promotion for my book.
Dude, I got a great idea for a TikTok to help boost that profile. Like, make TikTok channel, film a few, to a minute of the process of writing the book, and by the time it comes, like, show publishing, show the editing, show how much work goes into it. Like, people start tuning in. Like, I want to see this guy. It might take 3 years this guy to complete this book, but look at this struggle. Like, show what it takes to write a book. I think that shit's
Okay.
fascinating. I follow that stuff all the time. I follow stuff that shows processes of, like, weight journeys. I love watching that. Fitness
Well, I
journeys.
think it's cool because then when you have something like that, you see the progression, you see how much,
Mhm.
because a lot of times people go like, so we met these people in the Badlands, and I thought that they were poor because they were like super with how we boondock for free there. And like, they're all about doing cheap stuff, which fit with our lifestyle. We're like, yeah, I want to pay to go places. We're doing stuff for free. Turns out these people are like multi-men. Like, I look over time, like they are frugal people, but they like hundreds of houses, and like, it was just interesting because they had this saying that they kept doing, like, yeah, success that took 20 years. And so one time, and I was like, well, explain to me what you're meaning by this. And they're like, all of our families say that we're an overnight success, but it was like we slaved away at it in this real estate empire for decades before we were
Right.
successful. And so
Right.
they say all overnight successes don't happen overnight. They take like 20, but people see the results and they think, oh, it's just an overnight success.
Because they have no idea what goes into doing something like that.
Right. So, and that's
And
why
that's
I
the
like,
only way to do some of these things, like, to something great. One quote that I love, and it's like, to climb the ladder of success, you can't skip a step. Like, you're gonna have to start at the bottom. Like, if you want to get to the end, you're gonna have to start at the bottom, and it's gonna take what it takes for everyone. It's gonna take
that's
something different for me than it does for you, but there's no skipping it.
powerful.
I'm gonna have to go through the shit.
I have to work on stuff. Obviously, I mean, don't watch television and
Yeah,
and
creative.
you have a job sucking your time. I have a lot of time. So I like to work on projects like my is to invent board games. And I spend all this time and energy making these games and like hand it like full prototypes but I don't sell them. I just do it to play with the kids. And I've had people like, wow, that's crazy. Like you all this effort. And I'm like, yeah, but fun, it's got its own rewards.
Right.
And it's one of those things where it's like, I have multiple books going, and one of the books that I'm writing is actually the like roadmap to success, like the just like how to do this dream, but how to like get dream, because it's really the same no matter what you want to do. And it really helps me, like when I get stuck on one of my books, I'm like, oh, like I want to work the other day, I was all frustrated. I went, you know what, I'm going to do the self-help book, and I'm writing it to help others, but for some reason it's like cathartic. It like helps me
Mhm.
writing about it. And so I was writing about it, and it was literally, I wrote the chapter that was exactly what we're talking about, where it's like you just have to put in the work like every day,
Yeah.
and you won't see the rewards right away, and like you have to just persevere. And that's really what successful people do, is they just keep chipping away at it, and it's like over and over and over again. And then one day you're like, wow, now I'm doing what I wanted to do, and it's like it happens.
Right. And there's never a moment. I was talking about this to somebody else the other day too. I'm never gonna have that. I mean, I have that I realize it, but it'll never be like, this is what I made it. Like, this is the time that I know that I made it. It'll be me looking backwards, like, oh, I'm doing all that stuff that I said I was gonna do, and I'm making more goals upstream
Well,
from.
because that's successful people do. You set your first goal, and then you get it, and then you move on to the next one. I
Yeah.
mean, every state now. It took us 4.5 years to see the continental U.S., and then it took us it took to year 8 before we saw Alaska and Hawaii. because it was just, they were harder to do. And there's a driving force behind that. It has to do with my mom who passed away, and she really wanted me to complete my goals. And so I like set up to where like I'm gonna do this come hell or high water. Like it's gonna happen. I was gonna do it for the memory of my mom. Like I'm gonna make sure that I saw all 50. And like we took people and they're like, okay, so what it now? You've done it. Now it's just over. And we just laugh because it's like, no, we've already set the next goal. We've already moved the bar further. There is no just now we're done. Like now I want to travel internationally and we want to see other countries. Like there's come out with these books and be a successful author. And like, so you get the one goal. It's not like, oh, that's just it. Now I'm just done. It's like,
We did it.
no,
We can go do nothing now forever.
these people were struggling with these that I met. They had so much money and so much time and they literally do everything. They were like, it's kind of boring. And I was like, that's crazy because I'm like a person, I'm like wealthy experiences and wealthy in family, but as far as monetarily, I'm pretty poor. And like to hear that from you, it's like, I don't know if it's to take it like in a disheartening way or in a heartening way. And they were like, Chris, we wish that we had what you have. Even I would trade all my money for that. Like, I'm like, well, what is it? And he's like, just the energy, the happiness, the way that your vibes are and the way that your family is. Like they would trade all their wealth for that. And I'm like, well, that's kind of crazy. But they said like they get to that level to where they could afford anything and it becomes boring. They're like literally bored all the time. They're like, there's nothing to do. And he's like, I could retire and stop working
Look,
at the
I've been
business.
to
But why?
Egypt. I've been to friggin' Stonehenge. I've been to, left for me to go see. There's nothing new that I can't do, and that's boring to me. That's
Well, no. So they haven't traveled all over. They started traveling because they met us, and they were on the road. They were like, we had nothing to do, so we thought we'd go travel. Then they met us, and we like supercharged it, where they were like, we want to travel now. So like when we went to Alaska, we actually went with them and their family. We like I invited them, and we all met up there, and we like did together.
That's
And they
cool.
were like, it's just fun to do it with other people. So I think that for them, it's like to just do it with their family. It's not as exciting as when they have other kids around for the kids to hike with and get this aspect that they like about it.
It breaks the monotony too of just being around, with the family the whole time.
Yeah, and I understand because their family isn't as close as our family because the parents have had to work a lot more and they have a more traditional lifestyle.
Okay.
And so you get used to that. When you go to school every day, you're used to being away from your parents. You're not used to being with your parent all the time.
Right.
And so like even when we hang out with them, the kids kind of do their own thing. So they want us around because we have kids, and then that way all the kids can hang out and play and bond. And magic to that. There's something to be said about, an experiencing thing with other people. And so the value there, but I don't understand how you could be bored because I'm like, there's so much you can do in life. And like, I've had that to where I've been bored. I'm like, oh, life is a banquet. Like it's unlimited feast. You can just have as much as you want. Like jump and do it.
When I hear that, like I'm like, man, I can think of 10 things that don't cost anything that I could do, or I could think of 10 things that's a lot of money that I would love to do. Go to Singapore right now or something.
Oh no, we are. We're like, there's an endless amount of stuff to do, and we never feel that way. We feel like there's too much to do. There's too much to see.
Right.
We don't have enough time. We don't have enough resources to see it all. Like, I don't know. I guess our mindset is different in that regard, and their mindset has just been so much work for so many years that it's harder, especially for the husband, to disconnect from the work because that's like what done with so much of his time for so long. It's become part of who he is.
Yeah, I see that.
And that's fine. Like I had to explain to him, like, if the case, why are you trying to disconnect from your work then? Why run from it? Just embrace it and just go to work and enjoy it and just love what you do and don't worry about doing the work. Like there's reason for you to retire.
Don't worry about the money. If that's what you like doing and your body and mind and is all content, just do that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
But I mean, do you need like a person to tell us that? Like, yes, or like, I'm like, we're perfect. I've struggled a lot. And times it's like, why am I writing a book? Like, is he going to read this? Is it going to go anywhere? And writing the book is fun, but then the editing process is brutal.
Yeah.
And harsh, and I don't like it. And trying to get an agent is tough, and stuff is going to be tricky. And like, there's the nuts and bolts of it are like it's work. It's not easy. And so, but sometimes I need pushed. And so I'll talk to different people and they'll give me that little tiny bit of info or that little thing. And it's like, all right, I guess I'll do that. And I'm a go along with the universe kind of guy. So I wasn't going to make a TikTok channel. And then you're telling me that I should. So guess what I'm going to do?
I
I'm
think
going to
that
make a
that's
TikTok channel. That's just how I am.
I think that's the fault, but I have that thing as a curious person too. Like someone brings up a good idea to me, like I'm to sell. You could sell me anything as long as if you're passionate about it and I can see that in you. Okay, I'm gonna do that. You know, weird thing, but it's worked out so far. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, different stuff happened to us on our adventures because of that. And like in the beginning, when we first started traveling, I wasn't as much like that. I was like, I say no to people if they wanted me to do stuff, and I was like resistant to doing things that made me scared or things that I might not normally pick to do. And somewhere along the way, I think I realized the value of not only seeing other people's perspectives, but then jumping into what they want you to jump into.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I met a lady doing laundry in Wisconsin, and somehow it turned into her husband taking me in a plane ride where I was doing acrobatics in a plane. And I'm afraid of heights. I'm terrified of heights. So for me to do that took a lot. But
well, that also built courage. So curiosity brought you into you opportunity and gave you an opportunity to work on your courage and work through a fear. That's curiosity for you.
and we've gotten to do a ton of stuff like doing that. We were in Minnesota a different time, and the kids saw this Lego model at the Capitol, and it was like spotless because they had a case covering the whole thing, and it was really cool because it was the Capitol in Legos. And then we went to the St. Paul Cathedral, and they had the cathedral, but the top was open, and it was all dirty and grimy, and just like didn't it looked shabby. And the kids were like, "This is sad. Can we clean it?" And I'm like, "I don't think they're going to be happy if we just start cleaning this giant, intricate Lego model. Like, I have to get permission." And
100%.
so contacted the head of maintenance guy, and he was kind of confused. He's like, "Are you Catholic?" And I'm like, "No. Is that a requirement to volunteer? I just want to clean your Legos." And he was like, "Well, you could damage it." And I'm like, "I assure you, sir, we're not going to damage your Lego model. It'll be
I'm
nice."
qualified. I'm qualified to handle your toys.
So we took the casing off and we cleaned it all and fixed the light that was on it. They didn't even know there was
Cool.
light in it for the stained glass. And it looked so much nicer afterwards. He was like, "I didn't even realize it was dirty because it's just here and we just get used to seeing it every day." And so then he's like, "Do you want to go behind the scenes?" And we're like, "Well, of course we do." So
Boom.
he took us down into the basement, to the dirt basement area that nobody gets to go to, and he took us to the furnace room, and we got to see there was this staircase that was super cool that looked like something from Knights Templar type thing with the icon. And I'm like, this is the stuff that normal people don't get to see, and we get the window in just because we randomly clean these Legos. And it's amazing how much, if you put forth an effort and you just try to help people randomly, how much it pays in dividends.
Right. I have found that to be true as well. So much so that I'm trying to make it a habit.
Oh, it's a hard one to do because we spend so much time selling our labor that then it's like, I'm going to give you this. But you go with the flow and you go with where the universe tells you, and then you never know what you're going to do.
Right. That's true. Well, I think I'm going to try to go eat dinner, but we should do this again. When your books come out, let's get back on and talk about it. We can do this. I'll offer you some promotion for your stuff.
Sweet.
Whenever you guys are done with it, or when your daughter's book's done, we can talk about that too. Having good conversations, man. It was really good to touch base with you again. It's been a long time.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just one of those things where when you're on the road, you make new friends, but it's still nice to connect with people who I haven't even talked with you. I was trying to tell my wife, and I'm like, I remember him from grade school. What grade school did you go to?
I went to Corbett, and then I went to Fremont.
See, when you were at Fremont, I remember you.
Fremont. Did you go to Carson too?
I went to Fremont and then Eagle Valley and then Carson High.
Oh, you went to Eagle Valley. I went to Carson Middle, and then back in high school. I remember, didn't you live over between Lampa and Airport?
No, that might have been my older brother Charlie, because I think he lived over there. And that often happens because friends are friends with multiple brothers, and we all look the same, and apparently we talk the same and stuff. But I told her, I was like, I'm pretty sure I remember him from grade school and from Fremont Elementary. I was like, I remember him. It's all hard when you try and think back that far. We're old men. Oh, man.
Isn't that crazy? We're old. I don't remember the last time we've spoken.
But whatever, now we're speaking, so it's all good. Sometimes you
It's
just
great to
gotta.
connect. It's doing the same thing for me that traveling is doing for you, bringing me more relationships, good relationships. I'm connecting with a lot more people, and I found that when I'm sell roofs for a living, so I'm knocking doors and talking to people. When I tell someone about the podcast, they get excited for whatever reason. It becomes a topic that's exciting, and so it's really easy for me, because I find people interesting, to get someone that's to say interesting shit and be like, oh man, you want to be on my podcast and tell me that?
Well, I
But
thoroughly enjoyed it. So whenever you
yeah,
want me back, just let me know. If your audience
will
likes me,
do.
then I'll come back before my book is out. I don't care. I'm always down to
I know,
chat.
I absolutely will. We'll have you on regularly if you want. That'd be great.
Well, I think that's up to your audience. If your audience hates it and they're like, "This is a stupid talk," then obviously you shouldn't have me back on, because you got to do what the audience wants
Well, we'll
to
check the
some degree.
comments. We'll check the comments, and then we'll talk after.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Man, thanks a lot, Chris. I'll talk to you later, bro.
All right. Bye.
If you enjoyed hearing about Chris's experiences, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us continue to share inspiring stories like Chris's. Also, if you know someone who might be fascinated by Chris's journey, please share this episode with a friend or family member. Let's spread the inspiration. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to sharing more stories of overcoming and growth with you in our next episode.